Okay, after a lot of, some mishaps with these breaking, after I made the Vulcan ears, the mould for the Vulcan ears, I had to recast these in silicone, thusly, and then take a new cast using stronger plaster. This one came out okay, but this one broke again at the ear. So something like that, which was obviously no good, because even if I'd have been able to stick it back together, which was a choice, it would no doubt break when sticking it into these to make the Vulcan ear tips. So I wanted a whole piece. So what I did with this one is, because the ear shape is a bit tighter than the other one, I actually put put some slits into this so I could actually demold it like that, rather than just having to force it off. And I got a good cast out of this one. I've put a couple of coats of this release agent on there, because this will be getting ear tips made out of polyurethane rubber, and this has had 2 or 3 coats of that. But as an added safety measure, I'm going to water down some PVA adhesive, and I'm going to coat both of these with it. All of this, including inside, has had several coats of that, because again, I don't want the polyurethane rubber sticking to the silicone rubber. And as I've never done this before, I'm being very, very cautious. And I've watched a lot of Steve Neill's Vulcan prosthetic ear videos, and this is pretty much how I've seen him do it. Of course, he's professional and I'm not. He worked on Star Trek the Motion Picture on Spock's ears, so that's what, nearly 30 years ago, and he was in the trade before that. So he's had a lot of time and to get this right. So as I say, this is my first attempt, so I'm expecting horrible things to happen. But against my better judgment, some friends of mine thought it would be fun if I documented this. So anyway, the next thing I've got to do, as I say, is water down some PVA, brush it onto here, let it go completely dry, and then on from there. So for now, let's stop this so I can get on with that. So here we go. I've just mixed up some, watered down some PVA. I've probably done about a 3 parts water to 1 part PVA mix, which, well, I eyeballed it, but it seems about right. Enough to give a barrier, thick enough to give a barrier, but still enough to soak in a bit, which is kind of what I'm going for. Oh yeah, and contrary to my previous statement where I said about Star Trek the Motion Picture nearly 30 years ago, it's actually nearly 40 years ago, and now I feel disgustingly old. So let's get this on and see how it looks. So the idea here is, as far as I can, or as far as I think anyway, is to get a good but relatively thin coating. Doesn't matter so much here on the flatter parts, but of course when it comes to the ear, I don't want to affect the sizing of it. So the idea is, where the ear is concerned, get enough on there to seal it, but no more than that. I don't want to take away or add to the thickness of the ear in any appreciable way, because that will actually mean I will get not quite as accurate a ear tip. People who know better than that might be going, "You're talking a load of old rubbish, Mark," and I may well be, but it seems, if you'll pardon the phrase, logical to me, or the word logical to me, that I need to get a good sealing coat on this, but at the same time not do it so thick that it does actually affect the final mould. So a good thin layer on the ears. Getting some colour coming out of this from when I've had when I've done different things, but well, I don't think it's a particularly big deal. Again, I'm just going to slather it on here. Again, not too thick because it might affect how the two pieces lock together, because as you can see, I've got all these lines that I've put into the plaster, and this carried across the opposite when I moulded the opposing plaster piece. Luckily, none of that stuck together because I used a fair amount of that, and then I did a final coat of petroleum jelly to really make sure that the plaster didn't stick together, because I absolutely couldn't afford that to happen, as I would have lost all the work that I'd done. Okay, so that one's got a good coating on it. I'll probably go over that with a dry brush in a bit, because I can see some PVA pooling in the ears, and as I said, I really don't want that. I've got to say, I'm paranoid about the polyurethane rubber sticking in these when I do it, but I've done everything as Steve Neill did in his videos, except I couldn't get the exact same brands of materials that he used. And as he had a release agent, he also used something called Stoner, which was kind of made me chuckle as the brand name of a release agent. So he used a combination of this Stoner release agent and something similar to this, but yeah, as I say, different brand names from, if I remember correctly, a company called Berman Industries, which is well, a very big special effects website or company that supply all sorts of things for professionals, well, and amateurs, I guess, alike, who want to model making, prop building, anything like that, special effects, makeup, but unfortunately we don't, well, they may well ship to the UK, but of course the problem is then postal charges and good old customs duty, which really always annoys me, because you've already paid tax on it once, and then Her Majesty's government, for their own edification, basically go, well, we're going to charge you some more tax on this because we can. But it is what it is. I don't like it, but there you go. So those have both got a good coat of PVA. As I say, I can see liquid pooling in the ear canal, so I'm going to just stick that in there very quickly, just to lift the excess off, because as I say, I don't want it to affect the shape of the ear tips, as they do look reasonably okay. And as I said, it's my first time doing this, so I'm being very, very paranoid. Now this is actually, I guess, because this spray, this release agent, which is specifically for polyurethane, I'm using polyurethane rubber, it's actually, as you can see here, it's a spray wax, and what I'm seeing here is essentially some pooling, or, well, a bit like any wax coat, any watery coating going onto wax, it's pooling into droplets. So I suppose if you were going to use an analogy, it's a bit like what you get after you've just waxed your car, and you either throw some water on it because it's going to look fun, or it just happens to rain straight after you do it. It all beads into droplets and generally runs off. So I'm seeing that there. So I might actually have to thicken this PVA up a bit so it doesn't do that. And once this is dried, perhaps put another coat on. Anyway, I'm going to dab at this for a while and again make sure I don't have anything pooling in the ears too much. And as I don't want to bore anybody more than I already have, we'll take a break. Okay, here we go again. I've mixed some PVA, undiluted PVA, into my mixture. I would say it's about a 50-50 mix now. I've had a quick go with it on the left ear mould, and while still watery enough to get everywhere, I'm not experiencing the same kind of beading effect as before. So 50-50 mix seems to be the winner here. So it's still fluid enough to get into all the crooks and crevices, but it's thick enough so that it's not beading like ordinary water on a waxy surface. So that is a big plus. Also, I'm having listened to what I've recorded thus far. I've noticed a lot of ers, ums and ands being spoken while I go. Now I apologise for this because I find it annoying in videos that videos that I've listened to in the past. My only excuse is that this is the first time I've ever videoed myself doing this kind of thing. Not that I've been doing this for long, but it's the first video where I've really narrated what I'm doing as I go, and it's just having to think of what to say while I'm actually trying to do some work here is actually really harder than it seems. So I guess I've got to be more tolerant to anybody that I listen to in the future that actually does this kind of thing. I must say, I don't know how people do it. Maybe they give themselves a script. There you go, I've just said again. Maybe they give themselves a bit of a script, or they give themselves mental bullet points about what they're going to do. Me, it's a bit like Indiana Jones. I'm just making this up as I go. So this is pretty much got a good coat on it, thick enough to hopefully do what it is I want it to do, and that's the polyurethane not to permanently bond to anything, and also so that it gives that a fair chance of surviving. My ideal is that I'd actually like to be able to, pull several moulds using this. So again, the better demould that you get, i.e. where you don't damage either the mould or the plaster, then the more runs you can make. Now, doing it in polyurethane, as long as the prosthetic tip is applied carefully excuse me, and removed carefully, I'm guessing you should get several uses out of it. That out of the actual prosthetic piece, I mean. So if that's the case, then great. But it will be nice to be able to just if needed, or when needed I should say, that you can just whack another batch of polyurethane rubber, pour it in and do it, and then I don't know, 3 hours later you've got another set of ears. I must say, if this actually goes okay, I might actually cast my own ears and work through this process, because I'm guessing I might have learned something along the way, certainly in terms of doing that, because when it's actually put together and you have to put like a wall around it to cast the plaster bit, because you've got to go really tight so you don't get leakage of the plaster. These cuts become irrelevant, because you just have to make sure they line up well, then pop it on your flat surface, and the pressure of having the thin cardboard or styrene or whatever you actually use actually holds it back together, and you don't get any seepage where the cut is. That's one thing where silicone is great, as long as you get it lined up well. Sorry, if you put a cut in it for demoulding purposes, as long as you line it back up when you're doing your casting, you really can't, you don't get a problem. Not when it's just a straight cut with a sharp blade like that. So yeah, very happy with that, and it's probably something I'll do in the future if I do anything like this again. As I say, I might just, if this actually goes okay, there's a good chance that I'm going to do my own ears in the future. Will I video that entire process? I don't know, maybe. Did again, sorry. Yeah, I might video the whole process from start to finish, so that would include putting a bald cap on or wrapping your head in PVC cling film and doing the whole alginate thing, casting that, I think it would have to be a heavily edited video, because the process overall takes hours and hours and hours and hours. And as we all know, we live in an internet world where anything longer than 30 seconds is considered unusable. Anyhow, looks like I've got a good coating on there, on them both. Again, I'm going to have to just get a piece of kitchen roll where it's pulled a bit, and again, I just don't want that, don't want too much, want it covered but not too much. So I'm going to spend some time cleaning that up, and then I guess I'm going to have to leave it a couple of hours to dry, and then it's going to be time to take a mould. So that's really going to be a horrific moment for me, but I'm going to video it anyway. Thanks for sticking with it. Anyone who knows me knows that I do like to test things. So when I was doing some silicone moulding ages ago, I had a little bit left over, so I decided to stick my thumb, or coat my thumb with it. So that's the silicone itself, of my right thumb it would appear. And again, because I was mucking about, I did that, which was just to see how it came out. Lots of bubbles and that, but it wasn't for anything, so it was just fun to muck about with it and try it. But yeah, I mean, love how it picks out the actual fingerprints and the, you know, all the pores and everything in the skin. It's amazing stuff, this. Anyhow, I thought I'd better do a test with the polyurethane rubber. So I mixed a tiny bit up, and also decided to try some pigments in it. Now, I couldn't easily find, not at a price that was economical to me. The postage was more than the item itself. But I had this from ages ago when I was mucking about with other things. So it's a flesh tint, as you can see, oil based, very thick. It's you know, like a paste really, so proper oil colour paint, pigment, whatever you want to call it. So I put a bit of that after I'd mixed This, my PT Flex 20, put a little bit too much in there, so it went, I suppose, more pink than flesh, but you live and learn. Probably about half of what I used would have been adequate. So anyway, I poured that into the silicone mould of my thumb, untreated. I didn't put any release agent in. I wanted to see how badly it would stick, and to be quite honest, I was expecting it to get ruined, but it took a bit of work, but I did manage to get it out, and that's what we've got. I mean, the detail is actually quite amazing, even down to having a nail. So it was a bit of work to get it out, but didn't damage it. All these imperfections, I think, well, not I think, I know in the mould itself. So the fact that I didn't treat it and it came out this well bodes well for later. So I've given that a good 2, maybe 3 coats of the release agent. I'm not going to do any more. You know, I may lose some detail. I've probably lost a little bit of detail anyway, but I just don't want to ruin it. But I think, given what I've seen with this, I'll put that right there. In fact, look at that. That cast gets a thumbs up. I'm happy. I'm ready to actually try casting these things for real. Haven't got the time to do it right now, so we'll be turning off, and hopefully sometime later on today I'll actually do it for real. Okay, here we are. This is pretty much the moment of truth. I'm going to have to, well, I've measured out the 2 parts of the polyurethane rubber, so it's now time to mix them together. I have a small amount of pigment that I'm going to then add to it once I've mixed it, and then pour it, and this has about 4 minutes of pot time, so got to be quite quick on the mix. At the same time, you don't want to stir yourself too many bubbles in, although it's quite free flowing, so bubbles should actually work their way out quite nicely, but always better not to put too many in to begin with. But this is always a worrying time for me, mixing this stuff up. Always worry that I haven't done it enough. Anyhow, here's the pigment, which, as I say, I've used less here than I did for my test piece. So let's see. I may have added not enough. Doesn't seem to be making much difference at all. Although I think it's just me not mixing well enough. I don't think this is something I'm gonna have time to add more. I'll just have to accept it as it is. Although actually, it's taking the colour a bit now, so maybe I'm going to be lucky. But I think I probably should have added a tiny bit more. As I say, this only gives you about 4 minutes of pot time, so I think I'm just going to have to put up with that as it is. Although no, it does have a bit of a flesh tinge to it, so maybe I'm being a bit overly cautious. So that gets rid of a couple of the bubbles, thankfully. And the trick here is to not pour too much in one go, because what I want to do is actually poke it in a bit, all the way to the Vulcan ear tip. And in fact, I just heard a pop which I think means that I was... Oh god, this actually looks like it's setting much quicker than before, so that's a bit worrying. Anyway, so I think that's pretty much enough there. I think I'm gonna have to be quite aggressive in my pouring for this and do everything I can to make it get down there. Now, I could be in trouble here. Could actually be setting way faster, which is a bit surprising, to be quite honest. Wow, yeah, this is setting way quicker than before. That's very disconcerting. Well, I'm going to try, but if it gives me too many problems, I'm just going to have to, I think, call this one an experiment that went wrong. Well, it's gone in, but I'm really not sure about this. I think this is going to be a failed experiment at best. That's weird. No, I think that's... Really not sure about this. That went way solid, much quicker than I expected it to. So the trick here, or at least I'm going to put one on top of the other. And then I'm going to put this on top of that one. Really not sure about how this is fitting together. This one's quite good. Oh, that top one's quite good, but yeah, I don't think this one's fitted quite as well as I'd hoped. But again, we'll see. But if you look in here, this is already unworkable. So, but it is very warm in here, so I can only assume that the work time, the pot time of 4 minutes is significantly reduced because of that. So I'll give that a couple of hours, come back and take a look, and if it's as bad as I think it's going to be, I'm going to have to do another one. I'm going to have to obviously clean that all out, do another one later tonight when it's cooled down a few degrees. So, not particularly happy, but who knows, beginner's luck might do something for me. Okay, well, I'll show you later. Okay, it's 6 o'clock in the morning. I didn't shoot any video after I pulled those other casts out because they didn't go well. As I think I said during the last one, it was setting too quickly. I think the temperature was too high in here. It had been a very warm day. So my decision was to just pull them, clean them, junk them. The tip broke of this one and I've had to glue it back on last night. It seems pretty solid now. I've tidied up the edges where it's important, so I'll be trying that one. Also, I'm going to mix less rubber and just do one ear at a time, so that way I don't have to rush to try and do two. Less mixture, less tint, but enough to just give it a little bit of a flesh tone. This time I've mixed the colour in to the rubber part of the compound so I could work it for longer to get the pigment dispersed evenly without having to worry about it setting it in the pot. So I'm literally about to mix the two compounds together, and I'm going to pour it into just the left ear and pop it in and see how it goes, and then do the same for the right ear. I won't bore you with both ears, so you're just going to see this one get done and then I'll be out of here. I've put a couple of external markers so I can definitely tell when it's located properly. Didn't do it with this one because I'm worried about this breaking off again, so I'll get this one filled, get it on, make the marks while it's drying. This ear I have coated in a very, very, very thin layer of petroleum jelly because it was a bit difficult to get the rubber off. Came away from here absolutely fine, so no worries about the polyurethane rubber sticking to the silicone rubber. It is just, you're quite lucky that the two don't chemically bond. So a bit of mixing then. So just a last swirl to make sure there's no great awful lumps of pigment still. It's pretty good. The flesh colour I think is quite reasonable, but of course I suppose the catalyst is going to change that, but never mind. Anyway, here we go. Okay, let's get mixing. Never mind that cup, I don't care. Just want to get this done. I just hope I get a fair bit of working time this time, because before it just was not fun watching that go like that. Okay, that seems good. So again, let's get some in there. Really seems to be a much better consistency this time, so I've got a feeling the heat was really against me before. Again, just give it a bit of a poke to make sure the tip of the ear is covered, and get some more in there. Again, just working that in to make sure that those undercuts are covered, seem to be, and just very gently top that up. Again, just because I'm paranoid, I'm going to give that just another go like that. Okay, well, I think that's about as well as I'm going to make it go. Okay, here we go. wow, that went in really, really well. I mean, that just, poof, that was just amazingly well. I'm getting that coming through better now. That is completely lined up beautifully. So here we go. That's, couldn't have asked for better, and I think I've got a better run off this time. Okay, quite happy with that. That may even come out over the edge, as designed, or as Steve Neill designed it. As I say, I'm just copying badly. So, going to do exactly the same with this one. This is going to get a, as I say, very thin coating of Vaseline, perhaps a little bit more cleaning up there of the glue and the edge, and start that one again, or make up a new batch. I mean, yeah, that's starting to get thicker now, so making a smaller batch at a time is going to work for me. Okay, well, I'm not going to bore you with the prep for this one. I'm just going to do it off camera, as they say. Oh, and there you go. So that shows how much better it's flowing, because that just didn't happen before. Okay, well, I'm going to prep this one, get it done, get some weight on there, and then come back in a few hours and just hope it's gone a bit better. Okay, thanks. Okay, just very quick, I've got the second one done, got the cap on, and I've put some markings on. You may not be able to see that one, just with a plain old permanent marker pen, so that if I do any runs of this in the future, I will know when it's located up, or close to being located up. In fact, I'm going to put another one right there. This time, much better flow. You can see a load has come out there, which is great, because it should mean I get a better blender edge, I hope. Again, coming out here, it's already that's already partially solid. It's just about coming out of the back channels. So all in all, much happier. It was definitely better mixing the pigment with just the rubber part of the compound to start with, which gave me much more time to make sure it was okay and thoroughly mixed. Only needed about 30 seconds to mix the catalyst in. It poured really easy, was able to get into the undercuts and the ear tip, so I'm more confident that when I come back to this in a few hours, it will actually be a much better mould, much better pull. I think the petroleum jelly is going to go a long way towards getting the ear tips off the ear casts without damaging them. So hopefully, again, get a good blender edge. We shall see in a few hours, but I have better hopes this time. The last time was just, I suppose, almost a test run really when I look back at it. I mean, first time ever doing it, it's never going to go right the first time, is it? Okay, well, I will video the unveiling this time, so see you in a few hours. Okay then, it has been 6 hours since these were done. All seems pretty solid now, so all that remains is for me to snap that bit off, separate these down again, and well, work at getting them pulled apart. To that effect, I have some Trustees Johnson's baby powder, or talcum powder for those who don't like brand names, and I've now got to gently, I hasten to add, work this piece out. So the trick is to gently start manoeuvring this, and as I say, this is almost my first rodeo, so I'm just kind of following what Steve Neill did, or what I've seen him do in his videos. So that's get some of this down there. jiggle it about and just work on getting these apart. Once you can get the brush in, just sort of try and work it in a bit. As far as I can see, that's actually going better than I expected, but I'm still expecting the plaster ear to break again, because it's kind of my luck, how my luck goes. Here we go. Difficult to kind of see in. Okay, I think what I've got there is, yes, that's the bottom of the ear, so I think if I'm going to avoid breaking it, I just need to, yeah, just jiggle it about a bit like that. Okay, well, that wasn't what I expected, but, and of course it's not the broken one, which is interesting because I thought it was, but hey. So, it's kind of coming apart. God, I'm not even sure which part is which now. Oh, let's yeah. Okay, so I think if I break it about here, that's going to give me some latitude. I think I've actually got a reasonable edge, mainly to blend from. Not here. It's still rather thick, but seems usable to me, so that's great. Unfortunately, you do always end up with some waste, but I guess that's part and parcel of the process. So this one can go over here, but yay, didn't break. So, but then this was one that didn't break before. Okay, well, let's put those over there. I guess I'm going to be getting through a lot of baby powder. So, that goes there. So there's a little bit of a, yeah, I'm not sure what to do about that. Anyway, worry about that later. So, if I'm not mistaken, that is the bottom part of the ear. And again, just going to gently fiddle with it until I find a point where it gives the most, and that would appear to be there. So, well, again, let's encourage some powder down there. In fact, I'll encourage even more down there. Oh, maybe you should wear a mask. Maybe one should wear a mask doing this, but anyway. Okay, so I'm going to come to the opposite end of this, And again, I think I'm going to try and get under the rubber, because I'd actually like the whole thing to come out if that's actually even possible, but I'll perhaps even have it come through both sides of the polyurethane. Of course, what I can't tell is what is the top and the bottom of the ear, because having just done that one, it seemed that taking out from the bottom definitely worked better. And there we go, that is the bottom of the ear. So let's get a bit more powder in there. Wow, that actually pretty much fell out. So there's now going to be an explosion of baby powder. And again, I've lost the plot with what's top and what's bottom. Well, that's definitely the bottom. So okay, so not the kind of separation that I was hoping for, and yeah, not sure what I'm gonna. This rubber seems to have cured much softer than the other one. That's, I mean, great, but I just don't know why. Okay, so if I pull that off there, that's about right. I think I'm going to remove that about there. It's probably more than I should. Yeah, that's a bit annoying. Got a tear there. Now whether I can repair that or not, maybe blend it in a bit, but the consistency of the rubber is amazing. It's really much softer than the other. Sorry to be waffling on, but that's really actually kind of a big deal, because it means it should go on the user's ears much easier. So I don't know why that's happened. Maybe it curing at a lower temperature. Maybe leaving it for longer. Don't know, but what I am pleased about is the ear is not broken. So the repair I made stayed and was sound. So it's nice that I don't have to make another one. Yeah, that's really solid. So the thin layer of Vaseline, petroleum jelly, whatever you wish to call it, that I put around the ear certainly helped with the removal process, but I must stress that I put it on very thinly, because I didn't want to alter the dimensions. So I've got a bit of a hole there, but it's on the back of the ear. So what I am concerned about is I've got a bit of a split there, which is almost certainly my fault for taking it out maybe a little too forcibly. This one is definitely better, so I can probably use these. In fact, I'm certain I can, and they do feel much softer. So this is what I've got. So I guess the next thing to do is to actually try and remember which is which. And definitely loud. This is the right ear, so oh yeah, don't drop those too quickly. So yeah, that's going to be visible, so I'm going to have to do some patching work on that. but it does show that that's interesting. I'm not sure why that won't go down. Yeah, I think I might have to do a bit of yeah, chopping off of that. I really wish I hadn't used that now. So I think that piece is really going to have to go, because I think it's actually going to make it more difficult to. Okay, I guess that was an automatic cut off of the video there. So yes, I was just saying that trying to fit this on, there's a piece here that's actually proving to not be my friend. So what I need to do is to snip that off. And I think probably in this instance a pair of scissors is going to be my friend. But what I want to do is just cut off that very... Oh wow, that worked really well. That piece there, and keep the blender edge that I wanted. So here we go, trying to pop that on. It is strange, it's not quite sitting how I expected. I wonder why that is. Ah, there we go, got it. Just a piece that needed to be a bit forcible with it. So yeah, I haven't got a great edge for blending here, but I have bought acetone, more commonly known as nail varnish remover, although most of them don't come with acetone anymore. But my understanding is that acetone will actually dissolve polyurethane rubber. So I can actually brush it there and try and thin that edge out. But all in all, considering what happened the first time, it's not bad. But yeah, the right ear is definitely a bit better. Still needs some edge work there, but quite happy with that. So just zooming in on that so you can get a better look. Yeah, it does need a bit of work to tidy it up, but yeah, happy with that. And so close up would probably be better. Hope that was in focus. So yeah, not too bad. And the right ear, again, needs a bit of clean up, but it should work. So yeah, I'm much happier with these. I think I can work on these and make them do the job. So if you've managed to make it to the end of this, I thank you. And when they actually get fitted for real, we'll take a couple of pictures.